everybody. I am super incredibly ridiculously excited to have you guys on today. The last few weeks have been phenomenal, just talking about the subject of menopause, our trials, our journeys, all of that great stuff. And tonight, what we get a chance to do on Conversations with Teresa is have conversation with our other halves, with our husbands who have been there as we are going through this path that sometimes we knew what was happening and most times we did not. And we're going to get a chance to be able to hear from them just to see what it is that they went through. The purpose of all of this is really to be able to equip men and women through this journey. Women make up half the population. We're going to go through this one way or another. And so will the men in our lives. So we are super, super excited. I'm going to have all of the fellows come on in. The finest one on there is my husband, just so that you guys know. I don't want y'all to get it twisted. That's my man. All right, that's my man. Yeah, Carl, I see you, baby.
See you too, baby.
So just a couple of quick things. Again, thank you guys so much for joining Conversations with Teresa. I already see a bunch of people on. If you guys would like to comment or ask a question, there's going to be a little banner on there to tell you how to do it, how to log on. If you're on YouTube, I think that's the easiest way to go through. I think there is also a way that if you are on the website, if you just click right on the picture of me, you should be able to go on there and make any comments or things like that. So we have some phenomenal men here. And really what we're going to do is just hear their stories. Just like we heard the women's stories, we're going to hear the men's stories and their perspectives about things. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start it off with Carl. Yeah, baby. Yes, that's you. Okay. And really just, I feel like I was pretty open and honest with just about everything that I knew of. But really the question is, how are you walking through menopause? What's happening? What do you see in me? What do you feel? What are you feeling now? Because it ain't over, sweetheart. We got a ways to go.
As the famous artiste said of the 90s, it ain't over. The party's not over. It's funny, I was thinking about this and I thought last week and I heard the women speaking and it was a great episode, by the way. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. And one of the wives said, our husbands are like, oh, in her mind, that's her thought. And then when I thought about it, I was like, it's a different kind of oh. It's like, oh, it's the type of O's. It's the type of O's with the eyeballs roll back a little bit, so it's a journey. When I first encountered it, I didn't know what to think, and I didn't know it was menopause. I knew there was anxiety, there was we were going through a lot, just even with work, and we have a business together, and so I thought maybe it was some of that, but as time went on and we realized, wow, this is like menopause, it helped me in amongst other things I was going through with my life, just learning how to transition into coming into my 50s as a man, right? So for me, it was helpful. And the thing that came to mind for me throughout that time and even now is creating an environment. That was the most important thing, because for those who don't know, we have 5 kids together. And we've been married for 25 years. They have 5 kids. I know that, right? So keeping all that in mind, and with the menopause coming in too, that was a lot. It's overwhelming. It's exhausting at a lot of times, to be honest. And the challenge is to be able to learn how to navigate and get to and through it, which is a challenge. So for me, the thing that comes to mind was, creating an environment, and then also learning how to move with grace and poise. I think about athletes who, they're moving with Grace and Poise is they do sports. I thought about that as a parallel for life for me. I needed that personally because if not, for me, I felt like I would have went crazy. So how am I navigating through it? Learning how to have principles that can work for me, because I got to be able to take care of me if I'm gonna take care of my family. So those are three things that really helped me out, and are helping me out through this time. And I know it's not over. So what it is, it's exploring with it. It's a journey. It's an exploration. So as I think about those principles for me, I'm exploring with those things because they help me to be able to take care of you, T, and be able to take care of the kids. Because there's all that going on. And guess what? The kids ain't going to say, hey, why don't you take a break because this is going on? No, that's not going to happen.
They don't do that. No.
They don't do that. That don't happen. Yeah. So, I could go on and on, but I'm not. Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. Yeah. I have one more question, though, and I'll ask this of all of you guys. So don't be scared. Describe your worst day of my of my experience, or hardest day.
Hardest day. I guess I could go first since I just went and you asked me first.
Oh yeah, that was a question for you, and I'll keep asking everyone as well.
Okay, cool. I think the hardest day is when there's so much going on. There's like even this is a season where this is tax season. There's a lot going on. Managing work, managing not knowing exactly what's going to happen. Like even when we go to bed, is it going to be hot? Or are you going to be hot? It's going to be comfortable in the room. This is school vacation, so the kids are home. So we're in the thick of it this week. So you want to ask me this question again at the end of the week, by the way. But we're trying to map out the week and do things. It's kind of more of a chill week this week, but there's just a lot going on. So this is a great example of hard because it's just the beginning, and I'm already exhausted.
So this is your worst time, like today?
Well, it's the most. You say worst, but I say it's the hardest time. That's the word I'm gonna use. If that's okay, it's the hardest time.
Okay.
Huh?
I thought it was not.
Grace and Poise. So it's the hardest week where there's a lot going on, and we're in the thick of it. So we have to do a lot of planning. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think what I got from that was just like, here it is. Like I had this thing in my head, like, when I was up all night and when I was crying, but you're saying like, this is the worst. And so that was one of the things that I'm wondering, like how you see things that are hard, all the different things that you have to go through. And now you have extra people here. So that's being
right.
So that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. That's the way I look at it. I'd use the word more so hard, because if it's through our hard times, even when there's nights where you're crying and you're feeling a lot, I have to, as long as I'm quiet, I can listen, and I don't have to problem solve. I don't need to fix you. I need to listen. And so it's not, depending on the season, it's not always the hardest thing to do. So that might've been your hardest time, but not my hardest time.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks, sweetie. All right. JM, Justin Mograss, you are up next.
Hey, so my name is Justin Mograss. I'm the husband of April Mograss. She was on the podcast last podcast. And my experience with it. So my wife, she is in full menopause. But when she started out, it was I guess she went to the doctor and for something else, and found out she had cancer. So when we went to the doctor and she was like, she has cancer, we have all those feelings from that. And then when they said, they was like, oh, by the way, you're about to begin menopause. This was like I don't know, like over 5 years ago.
Mm.
So it was like, so when menopause started for my wife, it was a lot of emotion and feelings because there was, oh, I have cancer, and now, and she's beginning to feel, the menopause symptoms.
Right.
Uh, um, so it was a lot for it just came on my wife, came on the whole family like a bag of bricks, and and it was a little difficult to to understand, and I'm still trying to understand it. But the what's for me, what's important to get things together is that I have to be focused. I have to be more focused on my wife. And before menopause, it was like, oh, if I wanted to go to work, at work, if I only call her once, it was okay. But, I have to be more focused. Like when I'm at work, okay, I have to think, what is my wife doing? How could I help? Okay, let me call her. Let me send her. I know I'm busy right now, but let me send her a text message. Have to put more attention into it to make her feel more comfortable. Sometimes it's not enough. Um, but even though I'm doing more, sometimes it's not enough. Um, because there's other things that's involved. But so that's how my experience has been.
Okay. Wow, that is a lot. Definitely a lot. And if you had to describe your the worst time or moment, or what was the hardest? Um, I don't know. You can pick a day or a moment. I'm not sure.
Um, when I'm when I don't when I'm not attentive, when I'm not there for her, if I just let a day go by where I pay more attention to myself,
Mm-hmm.
because we're not young anymore. It seems like when you're younger you could do stuff like that, but
Ah,
but I'm not that young anymore. So
spring chicken.
so it's those days that I'm not attentive to her. Those that is the worst for me and her and the
Yeah.
kids.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Justin. I appreciate it. All right. Mr. Chip Mitchell in Philly, coming all the way. How you doing?
Yeah. How great to be here. Thank you, Teresa. It's great
Mhm.
to see you all. So I'm married to Ruby Mitchell, who was on last week.
Yes.
Um, what is menopause? So I think we've been in it since let me see, it's about 23 years. Um,
Mm.
I think it's a little different for my wife in that, when she turned 41, 42, and now she'll be turning 65 this year, which is awesome. But that whole
Mm.
time has been hot flashes, feelings, emotions, all kinds of somewhat personality changes. And I don't know if the personality changes, but different aspects of the personality are made available to you and all at different times. How would I describe it? It's almost like, you know, um, maybe missing time is the best way to describe it because something happened, you were there, but you didn't see it.
Mm.
And now they have a different perspective on something or feeling about something, and you miss that time, that whatever, because it all of a sudden shows up and you're like, what, like, where is this coming from, kind
Yeah.
of thing. I think if I had to describe it, um, you know that's probably the best way I would describe it. um, which the worst day is the days where I can't convince her she's okay. That those are the thing that's difficult is when, she's going through it and I'm just trying to assure her, hey, you're all right. This is just another chapter in our life, and what you're feeling, what you're going through, there's nothing wrong with you. Those are the hardest things for me. And I think more because I'm always trying to fix certain things and let everybody know that the ship's going to arrive at its final destination, wherever that is.
Yeah.
And so just those are probably the hardest days for me. But
okay. Yeah.
We've been in it so long, like it's not, it's kind of just a part of our life, It's like it's something. The only thing that surprises me is just the hot flashes. That's the only thing. I just think it's hilarious. I can't figure it out. Like, you're driving down the highway, it's 10 degrees, and my wife has to open the window. I'm like, that is just amazing to me.
It is amazing.
The other day she had the AC on. I said, when you get it down to 60, the AC's on. I just want you to know that. So that's the one that's always still, after 20 years, I just don't get that. But,
yes,
it is what it is.
We don't necessarily get it either. Oh, gosh. I had my windows open today. There was incredibly windy here in Boston, and I had to take my son to a doctor's appointment. I waited outside. So I had all the windows just a little bit down. So he gets in the car. He's like, why are the windows down? I'm like, dude, just come on. Like, I don't have time to explain all this to you. But it is very true. It is very true. So there looks like there's a comment from Veronique. I can't read that. It says, thank you.
She just said, Ruby shared she had menopause at a Women's Day in Connecticut in 2014. And easily. Absolutely. Yeah. It's been a journey.
It has been a journey. Ruby, I mentioned this last week. Ruby was the first person that was open about her menopause to me, to the church, right? Because it was evident. It was the physical that we could see the hot flashes and things like that. And so that was a big lesson for me because I knew that it happened, but that was all I knew. That's all I knew was that you just get really hot. And from a person who had anemia, I was like, okay, bring it on. I'm always cold, but no, that's a whole different hot. It's a whole different radiating. I don't even know, can't even express, but it's a slap in the face. So there was another question earlier where Corliss asked, do any of your husbands think that you two may be going through it, or if there is such a thing as male menopause? Have you guys ever felt like you guys are going through some stuff?
Well, I think if I could.
That I never play football again.
Well,
I think for me, like coming from New England, I was accustomed to the cold weather. I just felt like I could thrive in it. And my wife is Myra, and when I've had to put 5 blankets on the bed, and she's still cold, but she loves it, and I just had to get used to it. And so after almost 7 years now, my body is acclimated to almost close to the heat, and so I get cold a lot easier now.
okay.
And that's a challenge because I get teased about it. These brothers, oh man, you from New England, why are you so cold? Well, sleeping under 4 or 5 blankets and an electric blanket on top of it. So
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. There you go. So besides all the blankets, why don't you tell us your story, Daryl?
Okay. Well, again, my wife, I'm Daryl Bartel. My wife is Myra. And one of the biggest things that was challenging for me is when she was diagnosed with vaginal atrophy. And we've talked about it, and and I even had to learn about it myself, where she becomes so dry that even us being intimate, it's like physically intimate, it's like it hurts her.
Hmm.
And she described it as like like being cut with glass. And so
Hmm.
it took some time to, because I don't want to hurt my wife. And so it became really challenging to figure out, okay, how do we work through this?
Yeah.
um and I know she's feeling what she's feeling, because in her head, in her mind, she's feeling, well, um this part of me makes me feel less than. And so now
Hmm.
I have to convince her that no, that's not true. um
Wow.
but I also, in doing that, also focusing on making myself not feel um, selfish, um, because I had my needs as well, but I had to like Justin even said, I had to look out for her needs,
Hmm.
and not become that guy, and just really do everything I can to encourage her and make her feel, special, and make her feel like this, you know, even if this is something that we got to deal with for the rest of our lives, I still love you. I'm here for you. We're
Mm.
going to get through this together,
Yeah.
regardless. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. Glass. It's not
Yeah.
fun. Not
Nope.
fun. Oh my gosh. Okay. Thanks so much for sharing. Now we got brother Q. That's all it is. It's just Q. You got Cher, you got Beyonce, but we got Q.
That's
Q,
it.
your wife was on last 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
Carrie, and she shared with us. But why don't you give us your perspective on this menopause journey for you?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty new at this. I think my wife would probably be the youngest of them all, and so um, she's 52, and I think that we just started going through it. Although I think it's menopause. I don't know anything about that.
Mm,
Obviously, as being an older man, I know about menopause, but I didn't know, like, oh, that's part of menopause, like the cold feet or the dryness. You know, I don't know that. Um,
mm,
so, so you know, um, so I think it's super important that you have a topic like this for younger beginners and stuff like that, because us as men, like I heard all the brothers say right now, it's like, oh, what's going on? How can I fix it? Because we don't know. You know what I mean? Like, we're always trying to fix them, and maybe they don't need our fixing, they just need to go through it. you know. Um, but as long as I know that I can point out, like, oh, that's she's going through menopause, or that's a part of menopause, that helps me to, I guess, be a little more sensitive and to be aware and to, you know, give her whatever, or be patient. I think that's the thing that I'm thinking about right now, because my wife is very, um, she explains very well. She conversates to let me know exactly what she's going through,
that's
like
awesome.
with the cold feet. No, it hurts tonight, so as long as I'm aware of what she's going through, I'm gonna probably be more patient with her when she communicates with me, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because not everyone knows
Right.
what's happening, and that confusion is so hard. You think about like I think about me, and not to be boastful, but I was like, I can handle a lot of stuff, right? I could do this, I could do that, and go to work and do this. And all of a sudden I'm like, what's that thing that's right in front of me? That thing, oh, it's a microphone. Or what's, oh, that's a pot. Like literally just words. I would forget the words. And then, like some of you guys shared, you felt a little less than. Can I do this? Can I, have a thought and have a conversation that could last and be acceptable? There was a lot. My confidence was like, had plummeted, and it was such a short amount of time. Like it was almost overnight. So it was a very hard time. And I think one of the things that was just frustrating is because I didn't understand it right then. Of course, I can't explain it. So what a great wife you have that was able to explain it to you, that she had the wherewithal to really think that through. So that's, kudos to her. So maybe she can teach me some stuff. So I have a question. When, as women, we like to talk, right? I was at a school something one day, and I could talk to anybody and be like, oh yeah, this is menopause, right? So we just had this conversation. I don't know this woman. I'll probably never see her again in my life. Maybe you're on today. If you're on, let me know. But so we have these conversations. How much do you guys talk about menopause?
For me, I have specific people I talk to about it,
Okay.
because I mean, to keep it real with you, I mean, for me, I feel like, for us as men, there's a stigma that we can have where honestly, we feel like we can't speak to certain people about specific things because we come across like we sound like a punk. You know what I mean? And you find those few people that you can confide in, So for me, I have people who are older than me, and I have some people who are younger than me. The people who are older than me, I have a few people in my circle who I feel really blessed, who are a couple of decades older than me, and I get a chance to run things by them and talk about it. And, they're like, okay, yeah. But even the way they answer like that, it's like, okay, yeah, okay, you've been there, cool. Yeah. But I know other men may not have that, okay. But I've also speak to other men who's like, okay, wow, you're speaking about this a lot. And then I'm like, okay, well, I can't speak, I can't speak to you about certain specific things about this, but I can speak to other people about it because that's a safe place. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I don't really speak about it at all unless it's with my wife. But like even when it maybe like when it comes to at work, like if the room is too hot, somebody would come in and be like, oh, you must be going through that time. And then all the guys would leave the room. It's like, so when it comes for men, it's like when the subject comes up, it's like raid.
Not raid. Okay.
No, but yeah, it's just, well, you don't really want to have that conversation.
Yeah. Oh man.
So this is great that you got us on. Got us on here.
Okay. All right. Anyone
else? I talk to a lot with young single men. A lot. Because I'm trying to help them with regards to the person they choose. you know, a lot of young men are caught up in looking for a diva, and that diva is going to change over time. You know, and you better pick character, spirituality over the divaness, because you're going to be in trouble. You know, their looks begin to deteriorate from the day you say I love you, but their character begins to grow from that day till the end. And if you're not in love with who they are within whom God created them, when menopause comes, you're done. You're out of there. You're like, I can't wait till this is over, because you married a diva. Well, look, and you know, and people don't talk about that, and so you got these young guys going into these relationships, and they're not who they need to be because they have a false pretense as either getting married and what they've fallen in love with. So I talk about it a lot with single men.
Thank you.
Older men my age don't, because they're ashamed that something's going on. Ruby and I talk about it with the couples that we get with each week to help us in our life. We've always talked about it. But there's been times where the woman that is there is always, Ruby's generally been the same age, if not older. And I think a lot of women are afraid to talk about feeling like they're losing their mind, because there's a stigma with that,
right?
Especially in the roles that we serve in, my wife and I. And then I think men are afraid to talk about the sexual thing, because men always want more. And then when you go through something where people feel like they got glass or razor blades in there, you don't know who to turn to. But when you're open and honest about it, you can get through it. I remember Daryl first got married, and sometimes the four of us were together. We talked specifically about what he talked about. I mean, because you've got to be open and real about that. And because if you don't, you're going to feel like somebody's a problem. And then you're going to be stuck in a bubble, blaming each other. And that doesn't go anywhere. And but if you married somebody with character, they're humble, they're open, they're honest, they can talk about it, and you can get through it together. But if you don't have substance, it's an uphill battle. It's not over, but it's a huge uphill battle, and it's going to take a whole mind shift. So I you know, and I think women, you know, you got to talk more about this whole sexual thing, because I think women are very real and honest about the hot flashes, about the emotional things, about, oh, I'm losing my mind. But the sensitivity about the sexual thing is it's an insecure subject matter. But I think women got to talk about that, because you've got to help each other, but the younger generation that's coming up.
Right.
And the more we talk about it as men, there are so many things you can do, you know, and, you know, women feel it. They get to this stage, and it brings up a lot of insecurity. But the more we start talking about it, I appreciate Halle Berry did a whole segment talking about her inability to have sex. That was a shocker, because here's this woman, you know, she's considered beautiful, always on something like this, and then she's like, I can't do it at all. The pain, and people are like, what? Like, you know, and that's a shocker, because men in the world go, well, wow, she's so beautiful. And then you hear, oh, I can't have sex. What you gonna do with that? Ooh, okay, she's beautiful. Wait, no. You understand what I'm saying? Men know what I'm talking about. We got to talk about this stuff, because if you don't, you're going to blame each other, and it ruins what I think God had intended in our relationships. But the more you talk about it, it's okay, and you know, you not normalize, but you're able to get input and help and support and not beat each other up in the middle of it. But then there's some women, they're like, I ain't never had menopause. And I go, well, hallelujah, good for you. But you're a rarity. But there's so many that this goes through. So how do you navigate it? And so I'm talking to young men all the time, because I'm telling you, I had this one group, they're all non-Christians. I said, look, let me tell you something. Your wife is about to cry. You got problems now. And when your wife hits menopause, and they were like, whoa, wait, what? Like, they were all like, nobody's ever talked. I said, I'm telling you, dude, it's coming. And they're like, oh no. And they're yearning for help. And I'm like, it's about substance and your character. Who are you? And why are you in this? You lose that, then it's a terrible time for people, you know, and you gotta. So I'm not going to talk anymore.
Well, no, I appreciate. I absolutely do. And again, this is one of the reasons why, you know, I want you guys to come on. I'm trying to look at it at every angle, because I am like Carrie, very much in the beginning stages. And sure, I can look at last year when I started forgetting words, or it was like little things here and there, but the real big onset came on just a few months ago. And so it is very much in my face, and such a big deal, because it affects every single part of me, you know? And so I don't want women to go around not talking about, not understanding it. I don't want men to go around being afraid to say the word menopause, or to talk about, you know, this is what's happening in my life, in my marriage, in my relationship. I don't, you know, I want this to be, you know, maybe not the very first conversation that you have when you meet someone, but, you know, I want it to be able, I want this conversation, this topic to be able to be spoken about. You know, when I was at the very onset, I, you know, sat down and Carl and I talked to our children about it. I said this before, you know, my 10-year-old, he knows what menopause is, right? It's just like, why not? Why not? You know, we can't not talk about it. So one of the things I asked the ladies last week was to be ambassadors of this journey, you know, to talk about it, to not be afraid, not to be ashamed, not to be, you know, anything, because this is a part of who we are, you know, and this is the way that God created us, and then so be it. Then this is what we go through. But as for the men, I'll ask you guys to do the same thing, you know, to talk about it. And because most people are not going to bring this up, right? Most guys are not going to bring this conversation up. It is uncomfortable. It's, you know, I think we're all around the same age, at least 50 and above. Carl's the youngest, right? But we came from a generation that it was a silent generation. You know, my mom, you know, she's already passed, but she still ain't talked to me about my period, right? It's just like, they didn't have those conversations. It was just like, go figure it out. And it was usually wrong when we tried, and then we got in trouble for, you know, trying to figure it out. But anyway, there was just so much that we missed. There was so much that we missed, and we don't have to be that next generation that misses it. So I will ask you guys as well, you know, when you get together with friends and talk, you know, just talking about whatever, remember this conversation. Remember that someone's going to go through this. Even, you know, as Chip was talking about, he's talking to single brothers, right? And it's just like, yeah, single people are going to go through it too. They're going to feel it in some way, shape, or form. And so we get a chance to talk about it and to help them out and encourage them, because it's a road. It's a road, and it can be a very long road. So I'm excited. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Is there anything that you guys want to share that hasn't been shared yet, that you're just like, oh, I wish I would have done this differently or better? I wish somebody would have told me this, or, you know, maybe at some point, you know, when I was 29, somebody should have said it. I don't know. Anything you guys want to add?
I mean, oh, go ahead.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
It might be controversial, but is there a difference between white women and black women that go through menopause?
Absolutely. Not every single one. Everyone is different. It's such a big spectrum. But because what the research that I found is that we are, as Black women, we're going to feel it differently because of the other environmental things, the different stresses that we go through, the different traumas that we've been through. All of that stuff really contributes more. And Black women tend to have hot flashes. And their symptoms tend to be a lot more strong.
Yeah.
As opposed to an Asian woman who doesn't go through a whole lot of hot flashes. They have other things, but hot flashes is not their biggest thing. So yes, there are a lot of there. I can't. I don't know. I don't have like a number of this, but Black women go through things differently than white women, than Asian women, as a whole in general.
Yeah.
And so
I started to think about that because obviously my mother's Black, my sisters are Black, and my wife is white. And I've seen, differences, and I don't know. So I'm just asking that question.
Yeah.
I've seen, just maybe it's just new. My wife's new at it, so I'm just asking, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm glad you're asking. It's good to ask, because if you're not asking, we're not talking about it.
Right.
And
Great
so,
question.
but absolutely. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah.
I had a question too. So what would you say to the husband who might be, afraid to bring up the menopause conversation to his wife, or, because I think about one thing I thought about was, there could be some of these symptoms that people could go through and might be thinking about, and just to spark up the question and spark up the conversation, and it's an important thing to do, even to at least bring out about the self-awareness.
Yeah.
Just curious.
I think that if, it's kind of like one of those things where if I were in a bad mood and you just said, "Oh, are you on your period?" Like, I'd be offended, right? Be like, seriously? Like, that's all it could be? It couldn't have just been that you didn't, you could do that, right? That could be a reaction. And so people don't, people could respond that way. But I think what you can do is use this podcast and just like, hey, I listened to a podcast and I want you to listen to it with me and tell me what you think. I heard somebody talking about XYZ. You said that you had cold feet and you had itchy ear. This might be one of those things, and then walk together, not like go figure it out, but hey, I want to, as men tend to want to fix things. It's like, hey, let me bring this to you. I just wanted to, this was interesting. So I think that would be, a good way.
Nice.
Yeah, I just had a young guy. His wife is just going through it now, and he tried to bring it up. It didn't go well. I said, just go to the doctor. Went to the doctor, and the doctor did it, and now it's okay. As far as the conversation, because the doctor, you got to be smart. If you don't have the relationship where you can talk about something like this, don't do it. Just let the professionals do it. And I told him, I said, man, just go to the doctor. I'm telling you, just that's what they're there for. You can go with them to the doctor. It'll be a great experience. And just say, hey, let's evaluate us in this new chapter, this new stage in our life, and see where we're at. You go get some blood work done. You get it all checked out. That way you can do it together, and then the doctor becomes the bad guy. Because if you come out and the doctor says, you're menopausal, your wife may say, "Can you believe that?" I said, "You know what? Let's get a second opinion because that doctor must be dumb, and we're gonna go find a different doctor because evidently they don't know you." And then when they you go, "By golly, wow,
Mhm.
By golly, wow,
we
right?
onto something here, honey." And
No,
just be smart, man. Let me talk to you men for a second. Be smart. Let me tell you, be smart in
There
what
it
you're
is.
doing here. Don't make dumb decisions. Be
right,
smart and
right.
be the head of the household as God has ordained you to be, and be wise and patient. And I'm
Mhm.
telling you, we can get through this stuff. God,
Right.
God put Ruby in my life because I needed help. I needed to be more like God. And who she is exactly what I need for me to become more like God. And,
Mm.
I'm trying not to be stupid about it
Amen.
and grow and mature and learn on this journey. And I'm just glad that I chose right. I'm so glad. Now, if you chose wrong, amen. It's, and you might as well get over it because you're going to learn.
One way or another.
And you're going to be more like God than ever before. So get
That's
a
it.
grip and accept
Yep.
what it is. You can do this. You can do this. You can do this. And I think a lot of men get overwhelmed and they give up.
Mm.
No, God's going to make you great.
Yeah.
Trust that. She's there for you to become more like God.
Mhm.
Right.
And we can do it. And we just got to keep talking.
Yes. Please keep talking. Talk amongst each other. Talk with people you don't know and bring it up because it's happening one way or another. It is happening in people's lives. So I definitely, again, thank you guys so very much. I'll ask you guys to hold on, stay there for just a moment. But for our guests, those who are online, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys got something out of it. If you have any questions, by all means, you are more than welcome to go ahead and put it on the chat before we get off, or you can go on to my website and you can put it on there. But thank you guys so much. I definitely got a better perspective. Again, I think even thinking about my worst day, because sometimes, again, we can't think about you guys, but you guys are so trying to take care of us and we can't always see it. We can't always see it. And so thank you guys for your patience, for your love. And even if there are times that you mess up, we know you stay. So we know that you love us and we appreciate you guys. So have an amazing night. If you have not liked and subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and do so. I look forward to next week where we're going to be looking at one more time menopause in the workplace. How does that affect us? All right. So every single aspect of our lives, it does. And so I'm definitely looking forward to that. Thank you guys so much for joining. Peace out.
Peace.